Every woman in Seoul wanted Kim Jae-won. Every woman except one. And that one woman, a quiet, unassuming foreigner with flour on her apron and fire in her eyes, became the only thing the most dangerous man in Korea could not control. The morning Sandra Ose decided she was done being afraid, she burned 3 croissants, overproofed her brioche, and accidentally told her sous chef that his knife skills were decorative at best. She was not having a good day, but she was having her day. Which, after 2 years of rebuilding her life in Seoul, felt like the same thing. Sandra ran Petite, a small French-Korean fusion bakery tucked between a dry cleaner and a phone repair shop in Mappo-gu. It had 11 tables, mismatched chairs, and a loyal morning crowd that came less for the pastries, and more because Sandra had a way of making people feel inexplicably like they had just come home. She had moved to Seoul at 28 with a culinary certificate, a broken engagement, and a stubbornness that her mother called self-destruction dressed in ambition. 2 years later, Petite was fully booked on weekends, and Sandra had almost stopped flinching every time a man raised his voice. She was strong. She had built that strength from scratch. And she was not, under any circumstances, interested in complications. Across the city, in a glass tower that Seoul's skyline seemed to lean away from, Kim Jae-won was ending a meeting. He didn't raise his voice. He never raised his voice. He simply looked at the man across the marble table and said very quietly, "You have until Friday." The man left so fast he forgot his briefcase. Jae-won was 34, unmarried, unreachable. And according to every woman in Seoul's social elite, devastating. Sharp jaw, dark eyes that calculated everything and revealed nothing. The kind of presence that made rooms rearrange themselves around him. He had inherited the Kim syndicate at 26 and spent 8 years turning it into something that moved like water. Silent, inevitable, unstoppable. He did not get attached to things. He did not want things he couldn't acquire. He had never, in 34 years, wanted anything he couldn't simply decide to have. That was about to change. On a Thursday morning, his driver took a detour through Mappo-gu. And through the tinted window of his black car, Kim Jae-won watched a woman in a flour-dusted apron argue passionately with a delivery man over the quality of his butter. She was pointing. She was not backing down. She was magnificent. His driver kept moving. Jae-won said nothing, but his eyes stayed on the rearview mirror longer than they should have. It happened on a Saturday. Petite was fully booked. The espresso machine was singing, and Sandra was in her element. Moving between tables, laughing with regulars, sliding a perfect almond croissant onto a plate like she was placing a crown. Then the door opened, and the entire room shifted. Kim Jae-won walked in like the weather changed around him. Dark coat, unhurried stride, 2 men flanking him who waited outside without being asked. He looked at the small, mismatched space with the calm assessment of a man who owned buildings 300 times its size. He sat down, alone, at table 7. Sandra noticed him the way you notice a storm, not because it announces itself, but because the air changes first. She walked over. "Welcome to Petite. Can I help you?" He looked up, and for exactly 2 seconds, Kim Jae-won, the man who calculated everything, calculated nothing. He just looked at her. "Coffee," he said. "Black? Food. Surprise me." Sandra raised an eyebrow. Nobody said that. People in Seoul were specific, particular, allergic to ambiguity. She almost smiled. She brought him a brown butter financier and a cortado she made herself. He ate in silence. She watched from behind the counter, not because he was handsome, though he was aggressively so, but because he was the only person in the room who looked completely, utterly alone and completely unbothered by it. Like loneliness was simply weather he'd long since stopped fighting. When he finished, he stood, left exact change on the table, and walked toward the door. Then he stopped, turned. "Oh, you made the financier yourself." Sandra blinked. "I make everything myself. It tastes like someone who doesn't do anything halfway." He walked out before she could respond. Sandra stood behind her counter, heart doing something she did not authorize, staring at the door long after the black car had disappeared. Her sous chef appeared beside her. "Who was that?" "Nobody," she said. She was already wrong. He came back Tuesday. Same table, same order. Surprise me. This time she brought yuzu tart. He finished it in 4 bites and said nothing except, "Same time Thursday?" She should have said the bakery had no reservations for single tables. She said, "We open at 8. Thursday, he was there at 8:02. Sandra told herself it meant nothing. He was a customer. A quiet, well-dressed, slightly unnerving customer who tipped generously and never once looked at his phone during visits, which was somehow the most unsettling thing about him. She Googled him on Wednesday night. Kim Jae-won, chairman KJ Holdings, philanthropist, appeared on Forbes Korea 3 years running. No scandals, no public relationships, no social media. The internet offered his professional surface and nothing underneath. She closed her laptop. Fine. He was just a rich customer who liked her pastries. That was allowed. That was normal. She was not going to make it strange. She made it strange immediately. Friday morning, she made a new item specifically because she'd thought about his palate. Black sesame and dark chocolate ganache, bitter and deep and complex. She told herself it was a menu experiment. She put it on table 7 before he arrived. When he sat down and saw it, he looked at her across the room. She looked away first. "You made something for me," he said when she brought his coffee. "I made something for the menu." "It's not on the menu board." "It's being tested." "On me." "On whoever sat at table 7. He looked at her with those calculating eyes and said very quietly, "No one else sits at table 7, Sandra." She hadn't told him her name. Her stomach dropped. "How do you—" "It's on the door." He nodded toward the entrance. "Petite, Chef Sandra Osei." She exhaled. Obviously. "Eat your pastry, Mr. Kim." "Mr. Kim. Just Kim." "Eat your pastry, Kim." He did. And when he left, the ghost of something that wasn't quite a smile crossed his face. Sandra gripped the edge of the counter and reminded herself firmly that she was not doing this. Her heart, apparently, had not received the memo. 3 weeks into his visits, it rained like Seoul was trying to drown itself. Sandra was closing up alone. Her staff had left early. The streets outside were rivers. When she realized the last customer still sitting in Petite was Kim Jae-won. "We're closed," she said. "I know." He nodded toward the window. "My driver can't reach this street. Flooding 2 blocks east." Sandra looked outside. He was not wrong. She looked at him. He looked at her. "1 hour," she said. "I'll stay out of your way." He did not stay out of her way. He stayed at table 7 while she cleaned around him, and somehow his stillness made the small bakery feel even smaller. She was acutely, annoyingly aware of him in every corner of the room. "You close alone every night?" he asked. "Most nights." "That's not safe." "I have been closing alone for 2 years. I'm fine." "That's not what I asked." She stopped wiping the counter. "Are you concerned about my safety, Kim?" He held her gaze. "Yes." The honesty of it landed without warning. No charm, no performance, just a direct, quiet yes that hit her somewhere unguarded. She sat down, not at his table, at the one beside it. "Why do you come here every week?" she asked. The pastries." "There are better patisseries 3 blocks from your building. I Googled your office." Something shifted in his expression. You Googled me. I Google all my regulars. No, you don't. She said nothing. I come, he said slowly, because this is the only place in Seoul where no one treats me like Kim Jae-won. Sandra studied him. Who do they treat you like here? A man who likes brown butter financiers. She laughed. Short, surprised, real. And the sound of it did something to his face. Something cracked open briefly in those careful dark eyes. The rain kept falling. Neither of them moved toward the door. The following Saturday, he arrived to find Petite dark. A handwritten sign on the door. Closed today. Family matter. Jae-won stood on the pavement longer than made sense for a man with no claim on the place. Then he left. But Jun Seo, his head of intelligence, a habit he couldn't turn off, found out by Monday that Sandra's younger brother in Accra had been hospitalized. She had spent the weekend on international calls trying to arrange payment for surgery she couldn't fully cover from Seoul. Jae-won did nothing with this information, he told himself. Tuesday he came in. She was behind the counter, shadows under her eyes, smile slightly thinner than usual. You're tired, he said. Good morning to you too. He sat. She brought his coffee. When she turned to leave, he said, Is your brother okay? She froze, turned slowly. How do you know about my brother? Silence. His jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Her eyes went cold. You had someone look into me. I look into everyone who? I'm a baker. Her voice was low and precise as a blade. I make croissants. I am not a business deal, Kim. I am not a security risk. You do not get to investigate me. Sandra, don't. She set his coffee down hard. Don't do that. I came to Seoul to build something on my own terms. I don't need saving and I don't need surveillance. If you cannot respect that, Table 7 is available to someone else. She walked to the kitchen and didn't come back out. He left without finishing his coffee. Outside, he sat in his car and felt something he hadn't felt since he was 22, and his father placed the weight of an empire on his shoulders. Small and wrong, and desperate to fix it. He picked up his phone, put it down, picked it up again. He texted one line, I'm sorry, that was wrong. Sandra read it at midnight. She didn't reply, but she didn't delete it either. He didn't come for 9 days. On the 10th day, Sandra found a small envelope under Petite's door in the morning. Inside was a single card. No logo, no name. Your brother's surgery has been arranged and fully covered. This is not a debt. It is not leverage. It is just, I'm sorry. Sandra sat down on the bakery floor, back against the counter, card in both hands, and cried in a way she hadn't let herself cry in 2 years. Not from sadness, from the terrifying, disorienting feeling of being seen by someone she hadn't given permission to look. He came in that afternoon. She didn't say thank you. He didn't expect her to. He sat at table 7 and she brought him coffee and a slice of honey cake she'd made that morning, without knowing why. They sat in silence for a while, and then she pulled up a chair to his table, the first time she'd ever done that, and said, Tell me something true about yourself. Not Forbes Korea, something real. He looked at the table. I haven't slept more than 4 hours a night since I was 26. Why? Because when I stop moving, I remember things I'd rather not. Like what? My mother used to bake on Sunday mornings. He said it quietly. The whole apartment smelled like it. She died when I was 16. I haven't been able to eat anything sweet since. He paused. Until this place. Sandra felt the air leave her lungs. Kim, you asked for something real. She reached across the table and covered his hand with hers, just for a moment. He looked down at her hand like it was something rare and breakable. My ex-fiancé used to say I was too much, she said softly. Too loud, too ambitious. too stubborn. How I believed him for longer than I should have. He was wrong. I know that now. His hand turned slowly under hers. His fingers closed around her hand gently, like a question. She didn't pull away. It came from a headline. A journalist at Aggressive, Well-Connected published a piece on KJ Holdings. Buried in the 5th paragraph was a line that burned. Sources confirmed Chairman Kim's recent interest in a small Mapo-gu bakery by suspected to be a front for new syndicate-linked real estate acquisitions in the district. Sandra saw it on her phone at 6 a.m. By 7 a.m., 3 of her regulars had texted her. By 7:30, a reporter was outside her door. When Jae-won arrived at 8, she was waiting. She held up her phone. "Is this why you've been coming here?" "No. Your company is acquiring properties in this district. KJ Holdings acquires properties across all of Seoul. That has nothing to do with... Then why does this article know your table number?" Her voice cracked. "Why does it mention my name? My bakery? I have 11 tables, Kim. I have a morning crowd and a sous chef and a lease I worked 2 years to afford. I cannot be collateral damage in whatever world you live in. You're not... I told you I came here to build something on my own terms." The words tore out of her. "I told you I don't need saving, and I don't need complications. You walked into my life looking like every promise I'd learned not to believe, and I..." She stopped, pressed her hand to her mouth. His face was stone, but his eyes were shattered. "I would never use you," he said. "You had me investigated. I know I was wrong, and I apologized for that. And this? I will handle the article. I don't want you to handle it. I want you to leave." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Please, Kim, just leave." He left. The morning crowd trickled in. Sandra smiled at every one of them. She made perfect croissants. And in the kitchen between orders, she pressed her back against the cold steel counter and held herself together with both hands. For 5 days, table 7 was empty. Jae-won had the journalist's source identified within 48 hours. A disgruntled former associate trying to destabilize KJ Holdings using any pressure point available. The article was retracted. A formal statement cleared Petit of any association. Oh, he did it quietly. He told no one he'd done it. He certainly didn't tell Sandra. He sat in his office on the 5th night and looked at his city through floor-to-ceiling glass and tried to remember what his life had felt like before Table 7. Before brown butter financiers. Before a woman who argued with delivery men and made pastries for his palate before she admitted she cared. He couldn't remember. The before felt gray and airless. Jun Seo knocked, entered, looked at his chairman, who was staring at the city with the expression of a man actively losing a war, and said nothing. "Say it," Jae-won said. "I didn't say anything." "You're thinking loudly." Jun Seo set a folder on the desk. Inside was a single printed page. Sandra's lease renewal notice, due in 2 weeks, flagged by the Mapo-gu property office. The building had been quietly purchased by a development group. Her bakery was at risk of eviction. Jae-won stared at the page. But he could fix this. One call. Done. She would never have to know the building had changed hands. He closed the folder, then opened it again. No, not like this. Not behind her back. Not again. He picked up his phone, put it down, picked it up. He typed, "I need to tell you something, not to fix it. Just because you deserve to know. Can I come in?" He stared at the unsent message for 4 minutes. He sent it. Sandra's reply came 40 minutes later. "Tomorrow, 8 a.m., I'll have coffee ready." He read it 3 times. He slept 6 hours that night, the most he had in 8 years. He arrived at 8:02. The coffee was on table 7. She was behind the counter, apron on, hair up, eyes careful and tired and open in a way that cost her something. He sat down. He told her everything, the building, the development group, the purchase he'd discovered, the choice he'd made not to act without her knowledge. She listened without interrupting. When he finished, she was quiet for a long moment. "You could have just fixed it," she said. "Yes? Why didn't you?" "Because you told me you built this on your own terms." His voice was low, steady, stripped of every layer of Kim Jae-won, the chairman. "And I would rather lose every property in Mapo-gu than make you feel small inside something you built." Sandra looked at him, really looked at him. The sharp jaw, the careful eyes, the man who had spent 8 years being feared and had somehow, inexplicably, chosen her bakery as the one place he allowed himself to just exist. "I owe you an apology too," she said quietly. "I let my fear speak for me. You're not him. You've never been him. You don't have to." "I know I don't have to." She came around the counter and sat across from him. Same chair she'd pulled over that afternoon weeks ago. "I want to." Silence settled between them, warm this time. "The building," she started. "Already handled. Different development group. Your lease is secure for 5 years." He met her eyes. "I told you not to fix it, just so you'd know." She stared at him, then laughed. That full, open, unguarded laugh. And his entire face changed when he heard it. Like a man who'd been standing outside in the cold and finally felt the door open. "You're unbelievable," she said. "I've been told." She reached across the table. He looked down at her hand the same way he had the first time, like something rare. And then his fingers closed around hers. "Same time Thursday?" she asked softly. He looked at her, and for the first time in 8 years, Kim Jae-won smiled. Not the ghost of one, not the edge of one, a real one. Full, quiet, devastating. "I'll be here at 8, he said. 8:02, she corrected. 8:02, he agreed. Outside, Seoul moved and hummed and rushed like it always did. But inside Petite, at a table 7, the most dangerous man in Korea held a baker's hand across a mismatched table, and for the first time in his life had absolutely no desire to be anywhere else. If you made it to the end, drop a comment and tell me, what was your favorite moment? The rain scene? The letter? The smile? I need to know. And if you haven't subscribed yet, this is your sign, because this is what we do here every single week. Hit subscribe. You don't want to miss what's coming next.